welcome to this video on how computers store information. It is very important for any programmer to understand how computers work in order to really grasp why we do what we do when we run programs. Please remember that most of the things I say in this video are highly oversimplified. As programmers, we just need the concepts. To learn how these are actually done in real life, you need to take courses in computer architecture and computer organization. I will also add a link to a very cool YouTube channel where these are discussed in details with very nice animations. So do check that out if you have a lot of time. If not, then this video will cover the basic concepts. So let's get started. The main four things that all computers need to do are: number 1, take some input that can be using keyboards, mouse, touchpads, touch screens, camera, etc. Number 2, store the input in hard disks, SSDs and other mechanisms. Number 3, to process the input in a predefined manner. And finally, provide an output, which is to do something like show a text on a screen, play some sound, move a hand of a robot in a specific direction, etc. Now a computer is actually a bunch of very tiny wires arranged in circuits, put together with different components like your screen, and this somehow does all these things. How is that possible? To answer this question, we have to first understand what is information and how we store that using wires. Okay, so before we go into the wires, let us take an analogy. When you want to store some water, the pot that you use does not need to understand the water, right? So the steel does not understand what you are storing in it. You just need to figure out a way to keep the water in place until you need it back again. So you put the water in the jar and then you come back and take it out again when you need it. So for example, you use a mug for this. The mug might be made of steel, glass, it does not matter as long as it serves your purpose. The main important property of the mug is that water cannot leak through it. You cannot use a piece of cloth as water leaks through it, but using a glass or steel pot is okay. Now, the idea is that we work with possible options that we get and we build things with what we have. This is very important because as soon as we go into the next chapter, we will start having questions like why are we doing it like this? Why did the scientists not use the natural language that we use every day? That would have been easier. But there are reasons why we do not use it. Let's talk about those. Now in analogy, just like we figured out how to use glass or steel to store water, scientists figured out how to store data using wires and circuits. We know that wires conduct electricity, right? We also know that electricity can be stored in batteries. A computer memory can be thought of as a big shelf of boxes, each box being a tiny battery that can store tiny amount of charge. So each of the boxes are either empty or have 1 unit of electricity. Now we can go around and ask questions like, does the third box have charge? Simple enough, there can be only 2 answers. It can be either a yes or a no. Now this can be used to represent anything that has 2 answers. For example, you can say that the light bulb being on is represented by yes and the light bulb being off is represented by no in box number 5. So you can ask the computer, hey, what is in box number 5? Do we have a charge? If it says yes, in your program you can understand that the light bulb is on. And if it says no, you can understand that the light bulb is not on, it's off. Now, there can be different types of questions. So let's elaborate this a little bit on this one. For example, let's say you are working on a to-do list app. You want to track if you went grocery shopping today in the morning. Since this can have only 2 answers, we can represent it using what we already learned, right? We can choose box number 7 in memory and then say if this box has charge, I will know that I went grocery shopping today. If it does not, I will know that I did not go. So every morning you go shopping, you will magically put a charge in box number 7, and later in the day, let's say in the evening, you can come back and check whether there is charge in the box or not. If there is a charge, you will know, okay, I went to grocery shopping today in the morning. Of course, if you do this, then at midnight every day someone needs to come and remove the charge from box number 7, right? So that next day in the morning it's blank again, and only if you are going grocery shopping you can put the charge back in there. Remember that you will never place these charges yourself. You will instruct the computer to do this, and the computer will do that for you, so do not panic. But what about other questions that can have many answers? For this, let us have an evaluation of our decimal number system. So let's talk about the decimal system. Let us take the number 234. To write 234 on paper, we write the 3 digits 2, 3 and 4 one after the other. But why do we call it 234? As we know, this is because of face values and place values, right? And formally, we know that the value of a number is the sum of the product of the face values and place values of each of the digits. So, what does that mean? For the rightmost digit, the face value is 4, right? This is a 4. And since it is in the units place, the first place from the right hand side, the place value is 1. So the value of the digit in the number 234 is 4 multiplied by 1, that equals 4. For the next digit, the face value is 3, and since it is in the 10th place, the place value is 10 because it is at the second position from the right hand side. So the value of this digit in the number 234 is 3 multiplied by 10, which equals 30. Similarly, the leftmost digit is 2 multiplied by 100, that is 200. If we sum this up, we get 234. This is how the decimal or the normal number system works. Now note that the place value increases by 10 every time we shift towards the left from the right. So first we have 1, then we have multiplied it by 10 to get 10, which is the place value of the second digit from the right, and then we multiply it by 10 to get the place value of the hundredth place, which is 100. So as we can see, this increases by a product of 10 every time we jump one digit towards the left. This is because there are 10 digits in this system, 1 to 9, so 9 digits, and then one more which is 0, a total of 10. Okay, so let's talk about the computer system, how the computers handles this. This system is known as binary systems. Bi means 2, right? So let's see why. As we learned, a box in memory has only two options, to have some charge or not have some charge. These are used to represent 1 and 0 in the computer. 1 means we have charge in a box, and 0 means that the said box does not have charge. So let us take 3 boxes. The first one has charge and the second one does not, and the third one again has charge. So they are yes, no, yes, or true, false, true, or 1, 0, 1. Now since there are only two possible digits in this system, 0 and 1, the face value increases in multiples of 2 as we move from the right to the left. So we have the 1's place and then 2's place by multiplying it by 2, and then we multiply it again and we have the 4th place. So the net value of the rightmost digit at 1's place is 1 into 1, which equals 1, right? And then similarly for the next digit, the net value is 0 into 2, which equals 0. And in the same way, The net value for the third digit is 4 into 1, which equals 4, and if we sum this up we get 5. In this way we can represent all numbers in the universe using just the two digits 1 and 0. This is why this system is called the binary system, where we have just two options, 1 or 0. Now let's talk about a few examples. So in the first column I have decimal numbers 0, 1, 500, etc. And here in the first row I have the place values. So as we learned that the first one is 1, we multiplied by 2, so get 2, then we multiplied by 2 to get 4, then 8, 16, 32, 64, so on and so forth. So why I want to demonstrate this is because in most systems the tiny boxes in memory are not considered individually. They are considered in blocks, blocks of 8, blocks of 16, blocks of 32 maybe. Here I am considering blocks of 8. At any point of time the computer does not recognize each of these boxes. It will read a whole block which is predefined when the computer is created, right? And then it will try to parse the value of this block. So for example, for 0 all the values are 0, right? Then for the number 1 we see that we have 1, so it is 1 into 1 and therefore the result is 1. For 5, as we learned, it is 4 into 1 plus 2 into 0, 0 plus 1 into 1, so it's 4 plus 1, 5. Similarly, this is for 100 and this is for 255. Now as you see that all the values are 1, so this is the highest that can be represented using 8 digits in this system. Now each of these digit is called a bit, which stands for binary digit compressed together, so it's called a bit, and 8 bits taken together is called a byte. Now you may ask, why is it important to read them one block at a time instead of individually? So here is the answer. If you read this bit individually, you have no idea of knowing whether this is the first digit or the last digit of a whole number, because it can be either part of this, or it can be just a 1, or it can be something else. So you will need to know the context. So what did we learn? We learned that each computer has 4 key functions: ISPO, input, store, process and output. We also learned that a computer is a bunch of fancy tiny wires and circuits, and everything that the computer needs to do should be done by these logic boards. Data is stored as electricity or charge in boxes. If you know about capacitors, these boxes are exactly capacitors. If you don't worry, we don't need to know about those right now, and we'll talk about them later. We also learned that in binary, the place value is doubled for every digit we move from the right towards the left. And finally, we also learned, using our grocery shopping example, that we have to select a box using which we want to denote the answer of a question. So for example, for the grocery shopping, we chose that box number 7. We can tell the computer to put a charge in a specific box, and also we can ask the computer whether there is any charge in a specific box. Obviously, since we can add charges, we can also remove charges from the boxes. So the key point here is the address or the number or the location of the box. So I think that's it. Thank you for joining. See you in the next video.